welcome back to Wellness Watch. We have been talking, Patty and I, hi Patty.
Hi, Judy.
We've been talking a lot in every session about different forms of wellness, and a lot of it has just been our body and our mind and this kind of thing.
Right.
But there's a big piece of wellness that we talked about recently that if you don't pay attention to it, your body and mind ain't gonna feel so great. So we have invited Peter Began in from Mascoma Bank. He's a chief officer. I call you chief, but he's
Chief.
a security
Well, I don't have
officer.
any Indians, so that's okay.
We'll build you up as big.
Sounds good.
He's an officer of security, and he deals with fraud and hacking, and I'm sure everything else. And if you're not secure and safe with how you're living your life and your wallet, you're not healthy. So we really welcome you here because it's a big deal these days. It's as topical as it gets, this whole fraud thing, and it's just everywhere.
Thank you, it is.
Ever changing too, that's the thing.
Yeah, as soon as they get found out and they find another way to get at you.
Exactly. They're always one step ahead of us.
Yeah, so I think that must be one of your challenges.
It is. Yeah, you can't keep up.
Yeah.
Everything moves so fast, and we have chip cards now, which is
Yes.
great. However, they're not the silver bullet that's going to save us from all, certainly even credit card
But
fraud.
they do help?
They do help.
Okay.
I think what you'll see with a chip card is a shift from card present fraud to online fraud. So right now, the disappointing thing with the chip cards is they still have a magnetic strip on them,
Yeah.
which needs to remain active until the whole country becomes chip enabled.
Yep.
What I also believe will happen is if there are other countries that aren't chip enabled, MasterCard and Visa are going to keep those strips on our cards for a long time. So even though they do have the chip, the ability is still going to be there for people to compromise the
And it'll
card.
never
with
be
the-
100%.
I don't think so, and like you just said, Judy, I think that when we do get 100%, they're going to begin to figure
on
out
to the
ways to
next.
compromise the chip. So that'll be a difficult thing.
It's frightening, and I think a lot of our audience too, we have fair number of seniors in that population, and sometimes not only is it the cards and the chips, but it's that phone call or the person knocking on the door.
Oh, yes.
And I know, Pete, you've had a lot of experience with that, so I think it would be helpful for the audience to hear a little bit about ways that they can be safe and what to watch for, or tips,
Yeah, because there's a language that goes with it
Yeah.
that I know Liberty was having a problem with it, but they all are having problems with it. What are you going to hear at your door that makes you leery?
Well, I think the problem is with our elderly folks is, they were raised to be so polite. And when they get that phone call that says this is the IRS or
Yeah.
this is the Canadian Lottery, they've been taught to be so polite that they don't even feel that they can hang up.
Right.
And they really need to do that. And we've seen a lot of stuff with the IRS. We've had customers that were threatened by people on the phone and very loudly, very violently threatened on the phone. And regardless of whether you're an older person or not, to receive those threats over the phone, it's pretty intimidating.
It is intimidating.
The
And last thing-
police are coming to arrest you.
Yeah.
That doesn't work that way.
I think technically, are we supposed to call the police
I absolutely
when
would.
we've had one of those calls? Because I got one recently and I didn't follow through.
I absolutely would, and I think that one of the things that does is that lets the police do a public service announcement, or they might post something on Facebook that this is going around Lebanon or Hartford or the Upper Valley in general. So I
Yeah.
think it is helpful when they know. You're not asking them to act on it. You're just letting them know that it's here and it's probably not going anywhere.
And regarding the politeness, I know I started out over the years very polite with all kinds of wrong calls just because I didn't want to be rude. I'm rude now.
You have to be.
I'm bolder now than I ever was because I don't want them coming back to me. I threaten, I'm reporting them, whatever it takes. But
I truly believe, Judy and Patty, that these bad guys have a list.
Yeah.
And if Judy's polite or Judy falls victim, now that name goes to 5 other bad guys that are going to try to have Judy fall victim to a different scam or, an overpayment scam or a lottery scam or whatever the case may be. But if they get a victim, they tend to stick with that person.
Milk it.
Yeah.
Wow,
We-
yeah.
We had a customer at one of our branches that, a retired gentleman, he fell victim to the lottery scam, believed he'd won a lottery, sent a lot of money to the bad guys. I'm talking probably $25,000 over probably 6-7 month period. He realized that he wasn't winning and he had lost all this money. Ironically, a week later, he didn't tell anyone. Ironically, a week later, he got a call from somebody purporting to be from the FBI in Houston, and they would love to help him because he fell victim.
Oh,
So it just
it just
snowballs,
doubled.
doesn't it?
It's I'm assuming same bad guys.
Sure,
They
why
just
would
now
they
changed the story, and they got him for another $35,000. So
See,
all in all, it
folks
was
are
about
smart.
70
Very
grand.
often, they're smart people.
They are very smart.
Yeah, and they
But
do
these
like-
people are ashamed to tell anyone in their family
Right.
that they think they've been hoodwinked.
Yep.
So they don't tell them, and they should have, because someone would have jumped in to help.
Exactly,
But
especially the older folks.
And they wouldn't have let them do a second,
Exactly.
Unknown.
They're embarrassed, and they don't want people
And
to know.
poor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly much poorer. Yep.
Those are the stories you hate to hear because there's just no, it all comes back to education and information
Yes.
to try and help people get as much as they can to know how to say no or,
right. And even you
What to
probably
be
help
aware of.
people with language, people that don't know what words are going to help sound like you mean business.
And I'm smiling because anybody that knows me, and when you say you help people with language, yes, I could.
I'm talking about for public consumption language.
I agree, but I might not use the
I agree with you.
television version of
I agree with you. And it's
language
more
for that.
effective if you don't. So.
Unfortunately, you have to. You have to tell folks. And to me, when we do a session like this, we do at Mascoma, we try to do several sessions throughout the year to try to educate our customers. But it's not necessarily just about educating our customers. It's about what that person's going to do with that information, like share it with their friend or their wife or their coworker or the other folks in the retirement community that they're in.
Yeah.
I've been with the Lebanon Police Department to Quail Hollow and to the Woodlands up at Alice Peck Day to try to pass on some information so that people don't fall victim. The problem is the scams, whatever the scam is, they're not going away.
Right.
They're going to evolve.
Yeah.
So as long as we can get people to realize that there's bad stuff out there and don't fall for it,
Yeah.
maybe they won't become a victim.
yeah, it's a different world and trying to get people to understand that. And you hate to be so guarded and so,
Yeah, you wanna
but
trust.
also you want to
Back
trust.
in the days of good manners was trust as well.
Absolutely.
You didn't have to wonder if each person you were interacting with every day was trustworthy.
And as the world changes, technology's great, but technology is also a very bad thing when it
Very.
comes to, these scams and that type of stuff.
I have a question about something I've bought these things. Is it RFID?
Yep.
Do they work?
You mean like the
Cards in the
sleeve?
wallet or the sleeves?
I don't know. I believe they work, but here's the thing. I think there's a lot of things that we could talk about to try to help protect ourselves. To me, for the expense of a sleeve, fine.
Why not?
Why not? The other side to that is I think it would also be very unlikely that you would be in a crowd somewhere where somebody would have a device that could read
Right.
it. It's one of those things that's out there. Yes, could it happen? Yes, it could. But is it likely? Probably not. But for the expense of the sleeve,
Yeah.
I think why not?
It just feels good to have a little
You
thing
Little
next to
protection.
my cards.
feel more
Yep.
secure.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
but I don't know how our area ranks in terms of pickpockets and people coming by with they have something they can just slide along your wallet or your pocket and get the numbers.
I think our area ranks pretty low as far as that goes. However, I would have told you the same thing about a skimming device on an ATM machine.
Yeah.
And we've had those. And we've had them on gas pumps. So, years ago, I used to say, I don't believe that would ever happen in the Upper Valley. And you just can't say that anymore. Maybe it's not
Right.
common, but it certainly can happen. Pickpockets, I don't see or hear a lot of that in the Upper Valley. I don't think there's big enough crowds for that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe at a big event there, that might be a possibility. But I think more, you know, we see and hear of people's wallets getting stolen out of their purse at the grocery store.
Sure.
You know, as they walk by and the purse is open and customer is shopping and boom, just grab it and go.
boy.
And we deal with a fair amount of that.
And that's the thing, another whole thing I think that, Peter, we should talk about too is ways to protect yourself in those kind of situations. I mean, in our neighborhood where I live, I'm totally trusting, we leave everything unlocked and stuff like that. But we had a series of some of our neighbors where their cars were getting broken into, and we had some money taken out of our car. It was minimal because, like everybody, we all have little change
Exactly.
thoughts, and we had change taken out of one of our cars. And now we lock our cars, even in our driveway. So I think it might be worth for the audience to hear some of those, you know, park under a light, have the keys in your hands. You know, from a safety standpoint, we're
Right.
not only talking about fraud protection, but also
No.
from a security
Just physical
standpoint.
theft, too. I mean,
Yeah.
robbers, kidnapping, all that stuff is real still. I was told once, tell me if it's crazy, that I was told once not to remote open my car until I'm almost right on it.
Absolutely.
And number two, always look in the back seat before getting in, because just little things.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this, when you click your car key, for some reason, we always click it twice.
Right.
Why do you need to unlock all the
We
doors?
don't need to be doing the back
Exactly.
doors. Yeah, that's right.
Just get the driver's door, the spot that you're at, and I would absolutely recommend doing it when you're close to it. You know, I used to be an instructor for RAD, Rape Aggression Defense, for women, and Lebanon Police, Hanover Police, they all do programs with RAD. 90% of self-defense is being aware.
Yes.
So I believe it's true. You know, a couple other little tricks. Keep the keys to your car on your headboard or on your nightstand when you go to bed at night.
Oh.
If there's a problem in your house, hit the panic button. You might
Isn't that a great tip?
make
Oh my
enough
gosh, I've never
noise
thought
to
of
at
that.
least irritate a neighbor, so that neighbor is going to call the police and say,
my
hey,
God.
Judy's horn's been blowing for 20 minutes. Can you, and then the police are going
And
to
you're
show
always so
up.
afraid of hitting it, you don't think of ever doing it proactively.
Right,
You just-
exactly.
When you do it accidentally, you're mortified and you can't get it off fast enough. What a great tool.
Yeah, yeah, I
need
think
to learn
it is, and I think most people don't. In this area, I think that we live in a community or communities where we don't think that stuff is going to happen here. It happens less often here than it does in other places, but my thought is, why give somebody the opportunity?
Exactly.
You know,
Make it easy.
I said that we do these kind of training things for customers at the bank, and last year I did one about the card skimmers and the ATM skimmers, and we had 150 people show up in West Lebanon, and do you know how many we had show up in Littleton? We had 4. And do you know how many we had show up in Keene? 6.
Oh my goodness.
So I think when you get further away, and it kind of surprised me because those are both fairly big areas. Removed from Lebanon, but I was surprised in the what I heard from customers and our branch managers was, you know, they just don't think that stuff's going to happen here.
It's not, and
And
that's
we moved
perception
up
still
here
out
for-
there.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
absolutely.
We moved up here from Massachusetts, where we locked everything.
Correct.
Everyone up here said, so we didn't. And then I was in Etna. At the foot of our street, there was a Dartmouth couple murdered
Oh, right, yeah,
at Triscuit.
yep.
All of a sudden, we went back to saying, oh, darn, there goes that wonderful feeling of
Yeah.
trust. And now, and then we started religiously locking everything
Right.
again.
It wasn't all that long ago when I didn't lock everything in my
Right.
house, but now I don't go without it being locked.
Right.
Yeah.
And my car's at night, and my keys are inside, and
Much better about that.
and I lock them from inside the house every night.
Good.
Another thing too, that I think that we take for granted too, is being a woman walking around with a purse with it open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about not necessarily pickpocketing,
Right.
but that's like an invitation for
Yeah.
somebody to grab your wallet, or if it falls over and you don't realize it, somebody can just pick it up and run. So I think that's another tip that I've heard too, is make sure, and you carry
Zip
it in
it.
your front.
Right. Right. Don't, a lot of people will hang it over their shoulder, and that's fine. At least make sure it's zipped.
Closed, yeah.
And same with it, leaving it in your shopping cart. Like I said, people walk by, the purse is open.
And you walk
you're
down
looking
there
at,
to get something.
or you're even standing right beside it looking at the ragu, and somebody walks by and grabs it because it's visible. If it's not visible, out of sight, out of mind. I don't
One
think
thing I
they.
do now, which I don't know if you would approve of. I hope you would.
This is a high pressure here.
This is
Yeah,
pressure,
right.
Pete.
All right.
No, I carry, those little leather, little wallets, little fold-over things that you can just put a license in or something. I often will just take that to the store with my card in it, credit card in it. So
Sure.
that I'm not, there's no purse
Why
to be
expose yourself to
tracking or
more?
anything.
Yeah.
It's in my pocket and I could feel it if anything happened to it, but.
The other thing that I would recommend, and when we talk about pickpockets or somebody taking something out of a purse, make a photocopy of the front and back of each of the credit cards that you own and keep that at home in a safe or in a safe place. And even especially think about it when you travel.
I was just going to say travel.
Have a trusted neighbor. Everybody has a trusted neighbor. Have a trusted neighbor that you could then, if something were to happen and your wallet got stolen when you're on vacation. I don't know about you, but I don't know my credit card information
No.
or the phone number to even
No.
call to report it
And
stolen.
it does no good to carry it with you because if it's in your purse, that's going too.
Exactly,
Well,
right?
we did this happen out in Arizona once where we had been hacked or whatever you want to call it, and we didn't have any card to get our rental paid for, so we were up a creek. So we learned
Yeah.
you do need to put it somewhere.
Absolutely. And I think most of the big major credit card companies are pretty good about that. And if you're reporting it stolen and you say, hey, there's exigent
wonderful.
circumstances, and they would send
They're
it to your
wonderful.
hotel or whatever.
They know, and you sign. We had to just sign an affidavit that yes,
Yep,
indeed, we did.
exactly.
We're not playing games about this.
I
Correct.
think credit card companies are getting actually more involved with helping customers from the standpoint, like if they see a transaction on
Yes.
your card of a long distance from home,
Yep.
then they're apt to decline it or contact
Ask
your
you for
financial
approval.
institution. So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's some more information about that, Pete, but I think that is a great indication that they're involved with.
But I think doesn't every bank now have fraud departments? So they see something really weird that your pattern is groceries, gas, groceries, gas. That would be me. Then they see someone buying thousands of dollars of computers on my. They're proactive and they save you for that.
They try to.
Yeah.
So here's the problem that I see. Yes, I think most banks try to do that, but it's usually not the bank employee that's doing it or that's watching it.
Okay.
So we have Guardian, I think is the name of our company that you sign up for with your debit card. My wife is traveling right now. I got a text because we used an Uber in New York City when I was there with my family. So we had my debit card was attached to the Uber account. So my wife tried to use Uber in Boston, and I got a text from Guardian, which is Mascoma Bank, for my debit card, and it said, your card's trying to be used for Uber in Boston. Do you approve this transaction or not?
See, I
So
think having those people, just studying people's lifestyles,
absolutely, it
it
looks
can
for something
save-
that's out of the
it's
sorts.
wonderful when
Yep,
they.
that's
I
not
love the
ordinary.
call when they do it because they've never held us accountable for anything because they know we aren't doing what is happening.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, it's pretty neat. And like you said, Patty, most credit card companies have that, and most banks with debit cards, most have a fraud department.
Right.
Most have me at the bank.
Yeah.
It just might be some of the smaller banks. Mascoma is a little unique with me because that's my job. My job is security and fraud prevention. Where a lot of the other smaller banks like us, I might be the security guy, but I'm also the facility guy, and I'm also the this guy and that guy. So
Yeah.
it's a little more unique with me, but that's my only
that's all you
focus.
do.
Exactly. Yep.
It saves I don't hate to think how many people it saves when they give you that call that says, have you been out in New Jersey lately?
Exactly. Yep.
So God bless them.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Do you find a lot of ATM stuff still happening? Are people still peeking over your shoulder? Or I mean, I'm aware if they did, but
It's think about it though. Not necessarily just even at an ATM in the grocery store.
yeah.
Any point of sale terminal that you're using your debit card and punching your PIN number
I'm
in.
so anal. I cover it up and I punch in my PIN. And
Absolutely.
anal.
It's not.
It's not. but
That's what I
mean,
would tell you
at
to do
first
to
you
the.
think so, then I don't really care what this person is thinking about that, whether she's,
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to do it.
Here's another thought about, I talked about briefly about skimmers. An ATM skimmer, so the way an ATM skimmer is set up is that it will capture the data that's on your magnetic strip
Yep.
when you put the card into the machine. Also, usually, typically, somewhere on the machine is a pinhole camera that's taking a picture of you putting in your PIN number.
Right.
So if you cover your hand, they're not going to be able to see.
Oh,
So they're at least not going to be able to then use that card to withdraw cash.
Okay.
So that's a first line of defense. Second thing that I would suggest is a lot of ATMs now are in a vestibule
yeah,
where you have to present your card at the door to even get into the vestibule.
yep.
That's true.
Use a different card at the door than you do at the machine, providing they're not pinned the same.
Yeah.
You can use your Price Chopper value card at the door. All it needs is a magnetic strip.
I didn't know that.
So any card that you have in your wallet or purse that has a mag strip on the back, that will open the exterior door. Then you use your debit card. Because what the skimmer folks are doing now is they're putting the skimming device outside and the pinhole camera inside. So if you use a different card,
Look at that.
stuff's not going to match, and they're not going to be able to make a cash
I
withdrawal.
never ever heard that you could use anything but your
Anything.
card.
Yep. Most states' driver's licenses, the mag strips are active. So even a driver's license on that will open the
That's
door.
something you guys out there ought to know, because this is, maybe you know it and I didn't, but I clearly didn't.
Yeah.
And
no,
I'm
that's a
glad to
great-
hear that.
Yep. It's an easy thing to do. Just take two cards out of your wallet
Yeah,
instead of
instead of
one,
one.
providing they're pinned different. If they're pinned the same, you've defeated the purpose.
Exactly.
That's good.
But
All right, so I have another question for you. So, in regards to whether to sign a credit card or not to sign a credit card,
Yeah.
CID or not? I mean,
Good
is there any data, information, anything that proves that it's better to not sign it and see somebody's ID?
okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
I don't sign any of my cards.
Okay.
When's the last time that I was asked for ID? When's the last time that you actually gave your card to an attendant at a checkout instead of doing it yourself?
Right.
Yeah, so,
So it defeats the purpose of not signing the card if you're the only one using the card, and you're the only one that holds it.
yeah.
But even if there is, you hand it to the clerk at checkout, I don't remember the last time I was asked for my ID.
I had that same thing. I was recently working at a local establishment, and I asked the person for their credit card, and it wasn't signed. And they said the exact same. You're the first person that asked me
Exactly.
to see my ID. I'm like, really? I mean, it's just
Funny.
crazy.
Well, because it'll say, you get a new card, and it'll say, card must be signed before you use it, so, but I've only signed one time, I think, in my lifetime.
Yeah, I don't sign any of my cards.
And people don't know.
No, because it's rare nowadays that you actually give your card to somebody.
That's true.
You know where it is? Restaurants.
Restaurants, but even then, but even some of the restaurants now, Applebee's, you can pay at the table.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
They're all
You know,
getting the.
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so,
Wow. I had our first voter fraud. Our first card theft was, we eventually tracked it down to a restaurant because it was the only place where we had to leave the card.
the
It
presence.
left our site.
Yep.
And I'm
that-
surprised they aren't doing more to do it at the table,
Yeah,
just because of that reputation.
but so here's the technology risk for doing it at the table. That's also a better place for somebody to be able to put a skimmer on that device, because there's nobody overseeing it all the time.
You're right.
It's amazing to see these criminals with a card skimmer at even a point of sale terminal at a large box store.
Wow.
There's two people at least, and one's a decoy, while the other one switch out the whole terminal. The whole point of sale terminal, put theirs in, plug it in, and they're good to go. Your card still gets charged because it's hooked to their system,
Right.
but they're receiving the data as well.
They are
Crazy.
clever.
The-
They are
for
clever.
Our skimmer, one of our skimmers, we had two. We had one in Lebanon, one in Hartford. And it took the guy 12 seconds to put the skimmer on and the pinhole camera. So you, even as a customer, you're standing behind and you see this guy go up to the machine, he's there 12 seconds. It's not
Wow.
any different than somebody doing a transaction. So they're really good at what they do. This is their job.
So, we've gotten the word that we need to kind of wrap it up. If you had 2 or 3 tips to give the audience, what would they be? I'm talking about not just car or the home calls or the, just be more vigilant.
Be more vigilant. Don't give your personal information out. No bank is going to send you an email asking for your PIN number. The IRS is not going to call your home. Believe me, if the IRS is coming looking for you, you're going to know it, and it's not going to take a phone call. A lot of times our folks, I think especially with our older folks, they want to leave a nest egg for somebody that's younger. If you're told you've won the lottery, if you're told you have to wire money, it's probably a scam. And that old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You can take probably right out of it. If it sounds too good to be true, it certainly is. Don't fall for it.
The other, here, and I know we're out of time.
That's
but
okay.
it made me think when you said, don't fall for it. Another tip that I believe, Peter, I heard from you from another one was, if somebody calls you and says, this is for whatever, and I need this information, say to them, let me have your phone number and I'll call you back.
Right.
Correct.
And 9 times out of 10,
When that's
that
fun,
phone will not be picked
I
up.
do that with telemarketers. Hey, give me your number and I'll call you in the middle of dinner. Just
Exactly.
something that sort of
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
knocks them over.
And it's usually a click after that.
Yeah,
They're all done.
Immediately
Yep.
they're done.
But
Yep.
you're right, though. They sure don't want to be.
No, so if that would be my recommendation.
Yep, absolutely.
To the audience is that if you have questions on a phone call,
Yeah.
is that just ask them for their phone number and say you'll call them back at a more convenient time, and you'll never hear from them again.
Or,
Yep.
and you can also ask them, could I have that in writing? I prefer to see what you're saying in writing before I answer. You're
Absolutely.
never going to get it.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
They'll say, no, we don't do that. Click.
Yep.
I think the giveaways seem obvious, but when you could be in a certain position when you're taking this call that you're just not thinking. I
Correct.
tend to now be very distrustful. I just kind
Yeah.
of assume
I-
a lot of things are wrong.
I don't even answer the phone if I don't recognize
Yeah.
the number anymore.
No, when it comes on the TV screen as anonymous, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
unavailable or
Exactly.
or
It
gone.
just comes down to protecting yourself and being more aware
I think awareness is it. I think that's the answer.
and get educated.
Boy, are we smarter.
Yeah.
Wasn't this great having him
Made
here?
us smarter.
No, really, because it's so topical and it's so huge right now, all the different ways you can be
Victimized.
violated is how I feel about it.
Absolutely.
And you've helped us a lot with different ways and how we can avoid them.
Well, I hope so.
You've been awesome. I
Fantastic.
thank you for that.
My
'cause I think
pleasure.
anyone listening will thank you too.
Perfect.
Great.
And I think
Wow.
the other thing to point out is Peter's available. I mean, he's, for those that don't know, he's been in the community for all his life, and he's one of the go-to people and so well respected as a Lebanon police officer
Good.
and with a bank. So we appreciate you being here, and I think people in the community should know that they can reach out
Absolutely
to you.
right. And we'll put your contact info on the screen.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
that they can know how to reach you. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I'm,
And it doesn't matter if you're a bank customer or Mascoma Bank or not. Just reach out. I'm happy to help.
or even didn't live in Lebanon.
Correct.
Yeah, or Upper Valley.
But since I do, I'll just be looking for you. Anyway,
Well, and if that number
Yeah.
comes across the
you
screen,
don't want to see my number on
you
your
don't need
Text
it.
me her number
No,
when
you
we're
don't want
done.
to see it. No, no, no. You're
Don't
right.
answer
She's
that
right.
one.
She's right. Pay no attention. Anyway, you've been wonderful.
Thank
and we
you.
thank you, and
Yeah,
it was a
thanks,
great
Peter.
idea
My pleasure.
of yours.
Thanks.
Anyway, now that everyone's so smart, we're going to say goodbye. We'll look for you next time. Bye-bye.